All right, good morning, everyone. So just before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. So this session is being recorded and will be sent out to all the attendees next week. Please, at any point, feel free to ask questions. There should be an interface in the GoToWebinar that will let you enter questions. I will then get those questions, and as I notice them come in, I'll try to address them. If I miss any, I'll try to get to them by the end. We will have a section for questions and answers. So the agenda today is we're going to talk a little bit about who we are. We're going to look at Dynamics 365 customer service, and we're going to look at how it helps businesses and teams, provide better customer service. Then we'll do a brief demo of the Customer Service Hub, which is one element of the whole Dynamics 365 package. And then we'll get to any questions I've missed going through, and we'll wrap it up. And I just want to thank everyone for taking the time this morning to join us on this webinar. My name is Matthew Foy. I've been with Seer Group for just over 5 years now. Seer Group has been around for over 30 years. We use immense tenure and expertise along with our team and network to deliver end-to-end services and technology to our clients. We were established in 1989 and we've got about 4,000 clients globally. We've got, I think, over 70 team members now and hundreds of associates worldwide. I think our average leadership team tenure is about 17 years. And almost all of them have cross-functional business and technical expertise. We're proudly a Microsoft Gold partner, ranking as #1 partner in Canada's capital region for Microsoft Business Solutions. Our clients do reach all across Canada, though, and include for-profit and nonprofits, as well as associations. Our head office is in Ottawa, but we do have offices in the US, the Caribbean, South Africa, the UK, and India. So what is Dynamics 365? So basically, digital transformation isn't simply about technology. It requires business leaders to re-envision existing business models and embrace a different way of bringing together people, data, and processes to create value for their customers and capture new opportunities for their organizations through systems of intelligence. The challenges facing businesses today are familiar: engaging customers, empowering employees, optimizing operations, and reinventing the value they offer their customers. Of course, now more than ever, digital solutions to these problems are of vital importance. Businesses need to change and evolve to meet customer expectations and market demands to be successful, to develop new capabilities by transforming themselves into digital companies with systems of intelligence that leverage every system, device, process, and asset across the organization. These systems represent the ability to turn data and insight into intelligent action, making every human interaction impactful and driving optimal business outcomes. Now, what makes Dynamics 365 unique is that it harnesses the power of one Microsoft. Data has become the new currency, and organizations create and have access to more of it and faster than ever before. The challenge is how to transform it into intelligence that generates action and drives outcomes. So in the Dynamics 365 business line, there are multiple different kind of products or SKUs that address different areas of a business's day-to-day operations. And sitting on top of that platform are other tools such as Power BI, and underlying it are things like the Common Data Service that basically create kind of de-siloed data. So all the data is in one system and all the different elements of Dynamics 365 access it in different ways. We also have things like Office 365, where you can basically do your entire Office suite and day-to-day operations in your browser. So what we're looking at today is customer service. Basically is now kind of expected from organizations. People expect that they're able to call and talk to someone or create a case and get, solid customer support. So the 4 pillars of great customer service are getting connected, process orchestration, resource management, analytics, and insights. So basically, how easy is it for your customers to get in touch? How well designed are the processes that they'll go through when your agents connect with them? How are you managing your own resources? And then what kind of analytics and insights are you able to derive from those interactions? So Gartner predicts that by 2022, half of large organizations will still have failed to unify engagement channels, which results in kind of a disjointed and siloed customer experience, or people interacting with one business line or one product support team have a totally different experience than others might. Specifically, Dynamics 365 customer service uses built-in intelligence to deliver faster and more personalized service and adds value to all the different interactions you have with your customers. It basically creates a cohesive view of your relationship to your customers in such a way that your support agents, or basically anyone using the Dynamics 365 system to interact with customers, can get kind of a high-level view of the relationship, so that it doesn't seem like the left hand doesn't talk to the right, And this empowers your teams to, kind of have good engagements and good interactions that don't miss important context. Dynamics 365 customer service offers a very wide variety of functionality, and there are many different add-ons and integrations that can be tacked onto the system depending on your business needs. Some of the things we'll look at today are tracking customer issues through cases, so that idea of a basic ticket management system. Recording all the interactions related to a case so that you can see what emails have been sent or received regarding the case. Was it initiated by a phone call? That sort of thing. Sharing information in the knowledge base so that if there are common problems that have common solutions, those can be recorded and quickly accessed. We can take a look at how queues can be set up and case routing so that when people email, support@yourcompany.com, it, gets a ticket number assigned and gets routed to the right agents. We'll take a quick look at service levels, or speak to the different ways that SLAs can be configured in the system. We'll take a look at entitlements. So depending on what sort of support model you're looking at, you can set up entitlements so that customers are entitled to 10 cases or maybe 10 hours of support. And we'll look at how performance can be managed and productivity can be reviewed through reports and dashboards. And another great feature that we'll be taking a look at today will be scheduling services. So essentially, as part of the support or customer engagement process, are there services that your company offers that you could schedule managing resources across the enterprise? And we'll also look at how the system can personalize service, allowing for a single consistent experience. Although we won't be going over it in detail in the demo today, there is kind of this thing called omni-channel for customer service, which allows you to integrate web chat with chatbots, or even having agents chat, integrations with phone calls, SMS, Facebook Messenger, that sort of thing. And we'll look at how we can empower the team with enhanced productivity tools. So basically optimizing the performance of your agents and optimizing the level of engagement you have with your customers. And we'll also talk about how surveys can be built into the system to collect feedback, get customer satisfaction, and then review that data. So here's what some customers had to say about Dynamics 365 customer service. Basically, Dynamics 365 helps, connect and relate to your customers, regardless of the industry. So without any further ado, let's take a dive into the system. So here I've got the Customer Service Hub open. So this is the customer service app for Dynamics 365. And you can see here, just to kind of orient ourselves for those who may not have seen Dynamics 365 before, this is sort of like our start menu, the app launcher. So I could go to my email, I could open up Word or Excel, I could go to SharePoint, but I'm here in Dynamics 365. And within Dynamics 365, I'm sitting inside of the Customer Service Hub. So this is one of the many apps for Dynamics 365. Now, all of these different apps sit on the same database. So regardless of which app I'm in, I'm looking at fundamentally the same data. So if an account or a contact is set up in the customer service hub, they're also going to be set up in the field service module or the sales hub, so that if the sales team are selling products, the customer service team doesn't have to do double entry or re-record the customers. So what I'm looking at here is the Customer Service Manager dashboard. So this is kind of a higher level view of the whole team's performance. So we've got some charts and visualizations in the system here. So we can see the number of active cases by agent. So as a manager, I'm able to quickly skim across this bar chart and see, it looks like Krista's got a little bit of a light load. Maybe he should or she should take on a few more cases. And it looks like Jamie Redding here has 7 active cases. So yeah, Jamie should probably look at closing some of those out. Then I can go over and look at this chart here, so we can see resolved cases with the customer satisfaction scores by owner, and we can see, oh, they're very satisfied with me, I see. A little bit neutral about Anne, and it looks like Jamie has gotten some dissatisfied results. So at a glance, I can see that perhaps the performance of this Jamie character may need some addressing. Going down, I can see just how many active cases there are on the team's plate in total. So it looks like we've got 8 high priority, 9 low priority, and 17 normal cases. And then we can also have a glance here of all the entitlements in the system. So in this case, the entitlements in this kind of sample environment were set up with a case, like number of cases remaining in the entitlements. So we can see Northwind Traders have 18 cases that they're entitled to, whereas it looks like Wide World Importers have no entitlements left. So this would let me know, perhaps as the manager, that I might need to reach out to these to see about maybe getting them some more entitlements. Of course, depending on how your organization works, you could do it differently. Entitlements can also be tracked for time, so the amount of time that your agents spend on the case could be counted against the entitlements instead of just number of cases. So let's take a look at Lucerne Publishing, and we'll just keep in mind that they've got 14 cases left. So on the left-hand side here, we've got the kind of in-app menu. So this is, when I click home, it's going to the home page for the customer service hub. If I go look at accounts, I'm going to go look at all the customers that are in the system. So you can see here that by default, we're looking at my active accounts. Because Dynamics 365 is kind of a customer relationship management system, basically there's a concept of record ownership. So for example, if I was in the sales hub and this was my account, perhaps this would be the set of accounts to which I was supposed to be selling things. Or perhaps because I'm in the customer service hub, these are the accounts for whom tickets that come in are my responsibility. But I can very easily change the different view or the different segment I'm using here. So I can switch it to active accounts to see all the active accounts in the system. You can see there's quite a few more. I can page through them kind of like in a Rolodex, just jumping over to the L's, for example. And we can see here we've got that Lucerne Publishing. So all I have to do is click on them and that opens up the record. So you can see here, I now have the account record open. So we're looking at Lucerne Publishing. We can see that it's an account. Up in here, we've got some breadcrumb navigation. So we can see that I was in the customer service hub, looking at accounts, and I'm currently on Lucerne Publishing. We've got a few different things on the screen here. We've got some basic contact info. So this is the contact info for Patrick Steiner, who is the primary contact. But we also have basic contact info for the account itself, such as their phone number, their website, their address, that sort of thing. Over on the far right here, we can see the related contacts. So in this case, Lucerne Publishing is an account or a company, and the contacts are the individuals who work there. that we are in contact with. So you can see just based on the email domains, all of these are at lucernpublishing.com. So we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 contacts there, and Patrick is the primary. So if we get an email from Viara at lucernpublishing.com, we already know that this is related to one of our accounts. And I'll show you in a bit how that actually integrates. In the middle here, we've got a timeline. So this shows kind of a chronological overview of our relationship as a company to this account. And contacts have something similar on their screens. So another timeline, but for the contact instead of the account. So here we can see, for example, a case was created at 9:18 p.m. We can see an email was tracked. We can see a case was closed. We can see another email was tracked. We can also add activities. So if I go ahead and create a phone call, for example, let's say I give them a call just to touch base and say, hey, I see you've got 14 entitlements remaining. Maybe they're going to expire soon. So I can give the phone call a subject. I can say it's outgoing. I could enter more details. I could say chat about customer service. I could specify the duration, so maybe it was only a 15-minute chat. I could say when it was, but I'll just leave it like this so I can save and close. And then in the timeline, I'm going to see that there's a phone call. Actually, this is a scheduled activity, so I can just click check to say that it's done. And then essentially, you can see just based on the icons, how you can get kind of a quick narrative about your relationship with this customer. So you can see that, okay, an email was received. This auto post just saying that a case was closed. And then an email was sent. And then a phone call outgoing was made. So if you open up a contact or an account record and you see that the timeline is totally empty, you would know that you have no tracked history with that customer. Whereas if you see lots of incoming and outgoing phone calls, you know, there's a lot of activity going on there. This is also useful if someone does call, then your customer service agents would be able to find the account and see that there had been a lot of activity. So they might know, oh, you're calling in regards to this case that you've already called 3 times about, for example. We can also look at records that are related to this account, not just contacts, but many different things. So Dynamics 365 for customer support was once upon a time known as Dynamics 365 CRM, CRM standing for Customer Relationship Management. So the kind of key word there is relationships. So records in Dynamics 365 can all be related to one another in different ways. So in this case, we could go look at the related activities, which would show us those phone calls and those emails, or you could look at the related contacts, showing us a more detailed view of the contacts who are linked to them, or we could go look at the related entitlements. So rather than going through, the entitlement view, I could go straight from the account to the related entitlements to see that they have an entitlement and they've got 14 remaining terms. I could also go look at their related cases. So if I scroll down through some of these other entities and look at the related service entities, we've got cases here. So I can see that they've got this one case. It was created a week or 2 ago. It's got a case number, service required soon. So if I wanted, I could just jump into the case from here. We won't do that just yet. But there are many different record types. And the other key thing to note is that in Dynamics 365, all of this is very dynamic. So generally speaking, when we do an implementation of Dynamics 365, whether it's customer service or sales or something totally custom, we usually use one aspect or multiple aspects or apps of the system as a baseline, a foundation to build a more tailored solution that fits your business's needs. So for example, perhaps you track data about your accounts that isn't easily tracked out of the box. So we can create new entities. So imagine accounts and contacts, but maybe you want to track households or offices or locations. We could create a custom entity that then relates to the other entities in the system so that you can track the data you need to in a way that, like all the other entities in the system, create that sort of narrative about the data and empower your team. We've done implementations where almost all the entities in the system were custom. So another way to kind of think about the different entities in the system is kind of like tabs in an Excel file. So if you're like, okay, we need 5 rows that track additional data about this account, and you think, okay, I can make a new spreadsheet to track that. We could instead just create a new entity in Dynamics 365, and then it's connected and gets all that kind of power where we could build charts or dashboards that show it. You could manage or do mail merges based off the data, et cetera. So just before I go too much further, I did mention that emails can be tracked, and you could see that if you got an email from someone, you would know who they worked for example. So let me just show you quickly the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. So this is Outlook in the browser, so kind of Outlook online here in Office 365. And I've got some emails. This is a sample mailbox, so these aren't real emails. Some of them don't make a ton of sense, but you can see I've got this email here from Carlos to Karen. And if you've got the Dynamics 365 app, you'll get this Dynamics 365 panel that you can show. So I could pin it to always have it open, for example. And in this case, it's telling me some information about the participants in this email thread. So I can see right away that the email isn't actually tracked. And it's related to Carlos and Karen. And I can see we're currently looking at Carlos. We can see that he's the customer call center manager. So it's pulling his job title, the organization he works for. In this case, this is the sample data, so obviously gibberish, and his email address. If we click on Karen, we would get similar details. Again, this is pulling from the system, so these are users in the system, not actually customers. So whether you're getting an email from an email that's linked at an account, or maybe it's linked from a lead because they haven't actually become a customer yet, so it's still on the sales side, or you're getting an email from a customer, it would tell you what details are in CRM about that email address. We can also track the email. So if I wanted this email to be in CRM, so this customer service improvements email, I could set it, actually you can see it's already suggesting Lucerne because I was looking at that recently, but I could just do a search like this and then it would return results from different record types. So I could say, okay, I only want accounts, there's the account, or maybe I was looking for a contact who worked for that account. And again, all I had to do is type in Lucerne and it's giving me these options because you can see that they work for that account with that name. So maybe I choose this is related to Viara. Then it'll track it in CRM. And this email is now not just in my inbox, it's in Dynamics 365. So I can actually click View in Dynamics 365 to look at this email in Dynamics 365 the way anyone else in the organization could look at it. So perhaps a customer has emailed your team and they wanted to create a case, and you track it. That way other people in the team can see that email, so you don't have to forward things after the fact. People could just go to the case and see the emails related to it to understand the context. So in this case, it's just related, or it's regarding this contact. So if I were to go to this contact, I would be able to see that activity in their timeline. So even though this specific email address wasn't actually on that email thread, I was able to manually kind of attach it to this contact record. Here you can see we are looking at the contact record instead of an account. So it has different, its own timeline. It has other details, so we can see there's no opportunities or cases or entitlements here, but different data points. And The panel is context sensitive, so as you're just browsing around Outlook and viewing your emails, you're always getting this kind of context. So if you're working out of Outlook a lot and you're getting email, to go into CRM to get those kind of. So jumping back into the customer service hub, let's go look at knowledge base articles. So in the case where there are common problems with common solutions, you can create knowledge articles. So essentially, let's take a look at damaged or defective products. So this is an article that describes the process, kind of the SOP for handling damaged or defective products. You can see we've added some keywords, we've given the article a title, and it's got this rich text editor so that we can format basic kind of wiki. And then when we're kind of happy with this, we would publish it, and then it would be available in the knowledge search. So maybe you have, hundreds. So we can search in the knowledge article. So we could search damage, and then it gives us kind of this nice list, or we could search product, again, giving us many more articles. And then when we find the one we want, you can see we've essentially got a viewer for it. So your customer service agents, when they're perhaps on the phone with a customer, can quickly jump down to the knowledge search to try and see if there's a knowledge article that actually solves the customer's problem. Jumping up to cases, sort of the meat of the matter, you can see I don't have any active cases, but we can go look at all the active cases to basically see what tickets are in the system. So quite a few. They're assigned to different agents. Some are not yet assigned. You can see which customer they're for, the origin, the priority. And again, because this is Dynamics 365, all these columns are totally configurable. So we could add, remove, change these columns so that you're seeing a view that fits what you want to see for a quick glance at the system's data. So let's go ahead and create a new case. So I'll create a new case for Lucerne Publishing. Let's pretend, they phoned me and they had a question or an issue and I wanted to record a case. So I could say, question about product. I could say that the subject is products query. I could say the customer is, and again, it's suggesting this recent record, so I'll just save myself some time there. I'll say that the origin was a phone call. The product, let's say it's armband 150. And Lucerne does have an entitlement, so we'll indicate that this is the entitlement they're leveraging to lodge this request or this question. Then we can hit save just to create the record. And you can see at the top here, we've got a phone to case process. So this is known as a business process flow, and it's going to guide your customer service agents or your users through the system. So we can see the first step we have to do is identify the case. So we've already done that. We've determined that the customer for this was Lucerne Publishing. Then we could also specify the contact. So maybe I knew that it was in fact Viara who called me. So I could search Viara. So this is the actual individual who contacted me. And then I can click next stage to move forwards in the business process flow. These are also very configurable, very dynamic. So we could track multiple different fields depending on how you do your customer service processes. We can tailor this form and this business process flow to meet that. It can also branch, so perhaps based on some field or flag identified in this step, we might go to step A or step B or whatever you need as the next step. You can see it's also tracking how long we're spending on each step. So it's possible, depending on the different SLAs you set up, to say that if a case is created and then the customer isn't emailed within 15 or 30 minutes, it'll raise a flag or it'll email the customer service manager to say, hey, the SLA is ticking on this case. You need to get in touch with the contact. You need to provide initial contact within 1 hour. So in this case, I could enter a phone call activity just to record the details of that initial phone call if I wanted. Just to save some time here, I won't, but you can see that there's this nice little info panel telling me about some recent cases for the same customer, what entitlement I'm using, so I can see just at a glance that they've got 14 remaining terms here. So if perhaps I saw that this was 1, I might say, hey, Viola, you know this is the last case your company gets, right? Or something like that, depending on, again, how you operate. In this case, I'm not going to spend too long going through the cases because, of course, the nature of each case is going to be different, and the exact process that you would want to go through in a case is also going to be specific to your business. So I'm just going to jump ahead and I'm going to force close. I'm going to resolve this case. So perhaps I've already indicated that I answered the question, or I reset the password, or I mailed out the invoice, or whatever the request was. I can click resolve, and that closes the case. So if I could reactivate it, by the way, but essentially we can see now, again, at a glance, that entitlements has ticked down to 13. So now that we've completed this case, they've got 13 terms left, not 14. And that would instantly be reflected on the dashboards. So if I'm in the customer service manager dashboard, I can see that Lucerne Publishing is now down to 13, not 14. So again, as all the data in the system changes, all of these dashboards are real time, showing us at a glance information. Again, depending on how your organization operates, you can set it up so that when a case is closed, it sends out an email with a customer satisfaction survey. So we can kind of track the different satisfactions for the different agents. So in that case, maybe I closed it too quickly, I didn't answer the question well, the customer says dissatisfied. You know, maybe I answered the question, but I was, I don't know, really rushed about it or something. So that might reflect in my scores. Moving on throughout the app here, so some apps like the Customer Service Hub have different sections. So down here, we're going to change areas and move over to service management. So this is more where we would configure the system and set up different aspects of our customer service platform. So we didn't really look at it too closely, but there is a concept of queues. So we can just look quickly at this demo one to explain some of the functionality. So in this case, we could set it up so that this queue has a mailbox. So imagine the mailbox is support@yourcompany.com, and we convert all incoming email messages to activities. So these are the email settings, but we could change them. So maybe only emails from leads, contacts, and accounts in the system. So if you get an email from someone you don't have in the system, no queue item gets created. But if you get an email from someone like Viara who is in the system, it creates a case. We can change the type, the name, etc., the owner. Members, so perhaps we add the whole customer support team to this queue so that they can pull the items to work on. We can create record creation rules. This is how you would indicate that emails should turn into cases versus opportunities or something like that. So you could say that, you know, an email coming from an existing contact creates a case. An email coming from a contact who is not in the system creates a task. So the task might be to follow up and validate, you know, who's this email from. We can also set those subjects. So depending on, you know, we looked very briefly at one of these queries just to show like that it was related to products, but you can essentially create a tree of subjects or a hierarchy of topics that you can use to tag cases with. We can also set routing rules. So again, depending on how your organization does things, you might add new fields to the case entity, or you might tag different products with different business lines and then have routing rules so that when a case comes in that's related to a product, perhaps shoes, it goes to the shoes customer support team. And when a case comes in relating to a toaster, it goes to the, you know, kitchen appliances support team, or something like that. Entitlements is where we can create and track the different entitlements we're looking at. You don't need an entitlement to create a case. This is kind of an optional thing if you want to track, for example, depending on how you do your customer support, either hours or number of cases. So you can see it's either number of hours or number of cases. So in that case, if the customer support agent works 5 hours on a case, then they enter that when they resolve it, and it would decrement this number by 5 instead of just 1, which is what would happen when someone closes a case for this customer, no matter how long they worked. So perhaps you could have like a multi-tier support thing where, if they buy 100 cases, it costs, $1,000, and if they want 10 cases, it costs, $200 or something like that, or maybe hours are priced differently, whatever you want. We can also set up SLAs and KPIs, so that kind of concept of the case has been open for too long, or it wasn't closed within 48 hours, and then it kind of raises a flag. So there's lots of different ways you can set up the system in here, and we won't get too deep into it just because it's rather varied. So let's go ahead and look at resources and scheduling. So depending on how your organization operates, this can also be a big component of how you perform your customer service. So in this case, resources are pretty much anything that's bookable. So it could be me, it could be the room I'm standing in, it could be the computer I'm using. So maybe imagine your organization does bicycle repair. Perhaps the bicycle technicians, maybe you've got a few employees who do the bike repair, they're bookable resources. Perhaps they need a workbench and a specific set of tools, and that set of tools is another resource. So these are all bookable resources that we use to schedule. So in this case, I've got a few examples here, so we can go look at Ashley Chin. So she is a bookable resource of the type contact, so she's a person. If we go look at related, resource categories, maybe these. Oh, I can look at it from the other point of view, maybe a little easier. So we've got presenters. So I can go look at the list of presenters. This is a category that resources can be in. So in this case, I can go see that Ashley Chin and Jeff Hay are both presenters. But this is kind of a many-to-many relationship. So Ashley Chin could be a presenter as well as a bicycle repair technician. They don't have to be just one sort of thing. Similarly, I could go register facilities or equipment. So here I've created some demo rooms. So for example, this is a facility type. We can see that it is of type facility here. We can also see its work hours. So this is something you set basically for individuals as well as equipment. So in this case, we can see it's, I think it's going 8 p.m. to 8 p.m. each day, basically saying that the room is always open. There's no gaps in its schedule. Whereas if we go look at Ashley Chin's schedule, we can see that her work hours are set, it looks like 2:30 a.m. To 10:30 a.m. So strange hours, but if you have SLAs that require 1 hour turnaround time outside of business hours, maybe she's on the night shift. And these work hours then kind of drive or inform the scheduling component. So what we can configure once we've added all our resources and all our facilities and all our equipment and all our different resource categories is we can set up our services. So perhaps you do bicycle repair for $50, like tune up the brakes, whatever. Or maybe you do software demos. So in this case, I've created kind of an example service that could be offered, just called software demo. We could add a description. And the more interesting part here is where we set up the resource requirements. So in this case, I'm saying that a software demo requires a presenter and a room for 1 hour. But these can get very complex. So perhaps the service you offer requires multiple people to do multiple things using multiple types of equipment. You can schedule all of that in one place here. So this is just a very simple example where we need to pair a free presenter with an open room for 1 hour, respecting their work hours. So if I wanted to go do a new software demo, for example, or perhaps, it's like a network installation, which would require, a network technician, a van, that sort of thing. I can say, okay, let's do a new service activity. and we'll call it new software demo. We'll choose our service. In this case, I've only set up one, but you can set up pretty much anything that follows kind of a predictable pattern that you could set up like I showed. You could select the customers, so maybe we're doing the software demo for Lucerne Publishing, or maybe it's just a general one. You could choose the location. You could set it as tentative if you didn't want to hard book the resources. But in this case, I'll leave it pretty open-ended, and I'll just hit save. That'll just create the record, and then we'll schedule it. So you can see it gave me a little helpful reminder. So in this case, I click book, and we're gonna get a pop-up. So yes, we're gonna allow pop-ups from our example here. And this opens the scheduling board. So this is where it pulls together all those different pieces. So the resources, the equipment, the requirements of the service, who's free. So we can see that these are the different start and end times that the system is suggesting. You'll notice I set some strange work hours for Ashley. So it is saying, well, tomorrow at 2:30 a.m. is an option. We can see we're getting some options today, but for Jeff, because it's already past 10:30 a.m., so Ashley's no longer working. So we can look at the different options. We've got 4 time slots. So basically I could set Jeff Hay to do 4 demos today. So if you're kind of looking at managing or booking your resources, you can see kind of what sort of bandwidth you have available here. So let's go ahead and choose this one for 11:30, demo room 1 with Jeff Hay. We can see more details about it. So we can see that this is the room, this is the presenter. And then on the right here, we can see details about the booking. So we're gonna start it at 11:30. He'll arrive there roughly at 11:30. This is because we're assuming that the travel time from Jeff Hay's location to the demo room's location is 0 minutes. Whereas if the location were off-site, you can actually track travel time. When you're creating locations, you actually put in kind of longitude, latitude, which is more for the field service side of things, but we're not gonna go too deep into that today. We could say that it's reserved, or we could set different statuses depending on what's appropriate. See the distance is 0, so no travel time. So anyhow, pretty straightforward for this example. We'll just go ahead and click book and exit, and that will lock in demo room 1 and Jeff Hay for the 11:30 time slot. So I can see here if I click on the bookings tab, it'll show me the different resources and when they're booked for. So again, if you had set up a very complicated service, for example, maybe that required different people to do different things at different times using different equipment, you would see all the different bookings here. So then you could also filter it by resource to see, across the whole system, what's demo room 1 up to, for example. And we can also jump over to the scheduling tool, and this will show us the schedule board for the whole system. So here we can see there's quite a few resources set up, but you can see here we've got Ashley doing a demo at 9 a.m. or has done a demo at 9 a.m. apparently. And if we go forward a little bit, we should be able to see, what did we set it for, 11:30? So maybe we'll just scroll down. Here's demo room 1. So you can see we've got more resources than are actually set up with tasks at the moment. But we can see here are the different demos that are going to be happening in demo room 1. Now, if we wanted to do another demo at 11:30, the system would suggest demo room 2 instead. Although Jeff is the only presenter working during that time, so it wouldn't actually come up because he'll be preoccupied in this time slot. We can also filter, so we could just take a look for Jeff and see that he's got 2 demos coming up. So this gives you a look at how you're booking your different resources. We can also see that he's got 2 hours of work scheduled, which is 5% of his working time, or he's got something like that across the week, I think it is. So the schedule board shows you kind of the week at a glance. So we can go week by week through here. So we're saying he's 5% booked up for the week. You can also do this across organizational units. So in this case, there's different Fabricams set up here. So in this case, Jeff and the demo room were both part of Fabricam US, And as part of the service and the scheduling, you can specify that they have to be part of the same OU, organizational unit, so that you aren't saying, hey, Jeff's free and a demo room in Canada is free. I'm sure it'll work out. You say that you're pairing people intelligently across the system. A couple few things to mention that I can't really demo today, but are interesting to know, is that you can integrate this to your phone systems. So there are third-party tools that'll integrate, for example, VoIP systems to this, so that when you get a call, it tells you who's calling. There's that omni-channel thing, so you can see that you've got a chat open or a Facebook message dialogue open. You can also integrate the data in this to Power BI. So if you want more advanced dashboards than just this, you can do really sophisticated things using Power BI. There's also another product in the Dynamics 365 sort of sphere. It's called Power Apps Portals. So you can create a portal, like a self-service customer support portal, that hooks into this data. So your customers can log in against their contact records. So Jim Glynn here could log in using this email address and a password that he sets to basically go and create or review his own open cases. So he could go in and close a case that he opened because he no longer needs the help. He doesn't need to phone. He doesn't need to text. He doesn't need to necessarily reach out. He could serve himself. So with that, let's talk about licensing. So this is the pricing model. So if you want the professional version that has fewer of those more sophisticated features, it's $64 per user per month, roughly double that for the enterprise version. There are add-on licenses if you want like the chatbot, for example, or you want that omni-channel digital messaging add-in. Are there any questions? All right, so I see we've got one question. How is this better than something like Zendesk? And the answer, I guess, is it gives you a more integrated platform to work off of. So Dynamics 365 by default would integrate with any other Dynamics 365 application. It also has out-of-the-box integrations to things like Outlook and Power BI and the portals, so you can really extend the system a lot more intuitively and a lot more cost-effectively than Zendesk. The portal is kind of a separate component, but it does allow a great deal of flexibility, and you can extend the portal across the whole system as well. So if you had the sales app as well, you could actually create like an e-commerce site or something so people could browse products and purchase them, and then also receive customer support from the same place. So thanks for joining. If you're interested or you want to see a more personalized or more tailored demo, feel free to reach out to us. The contact info is on the screen, and enjoy the rest of your day.